Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Gridiron Glory where Tad and Will cover all 32 teams in the NFL. Today, we have a week 3 recap featuring the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New Orleans Saints, with the Eagles coming away 15-12 winners in New Orleans. A very exciting game, late with a lot of late action. Early on, it was a defensive showdown with the Saints leading 3-0 in the first quarter, and that score holding until the fourth quarter. There was no scoring in the second quarter, no scoring in the third quarter. So a very surprising defensive effort, especially considering that the Saints offense had been one of the strongest units in the league early on. But the Eagles defense kept them in the game as their offense struggled to get going early. But late in the game, when you need it the most, the Philadelphia Eagles offense answered the bell in a big way. Jalen Hurts, 29 of 38, 311 yards, no touchdowns to one interception, also a lost fumble. So the turnover's an issue there, but he had, other than that, a fairly efficient game. He was sacked 4 times, so that's a credit to the Saints defense there. But looking specifically at Saquon Barkley, who had the 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, including the game winner, he was the playmaker that the Philadelphia Eagles sorely needed, and a huge acquisition for them, and it's seeming to continue to push the team forward. 17 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches for 9 yards. So a big game for Saquon Barkley, a big game for Dallas Goedert as well. 10 catches, 170 yards. Devonta Smith, 7 catches for 79 yards. So a very slow start for the Eagles offense, but when they need the scores, you have Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley doing their thing.
Yeah, I was really impressed by this Eagles defense. I was very impressed by an Eagles defense that was able to really keep them in this game despite their offensive struggles until the fourth quarter. I mean, the Eagles weren't able to get anything going. This game didn't really start popping off until the fourth quarter late in this thing. Um, Shout out to both defenses really for keeping both of their teams in it as long as they could. That's kind of what you felt like the vibe of this matchup was. It was a defensive battle up until about the end. Once the offenses kind of started finally a way through the defenses. So shout out there for sure. And yeah, you talked about it. You talked about Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. And yeah, Saquon Barkley, he's been an amazing acquisition for this Philadelphia Eagles football team. Jalen Hurts, even being able to run from time to time. Not the flashiest performance by Jalen Hurts by any means. Not a flashy performance from either quarterback, simply because both defenses went out and played lights out. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. For Philly, you had guys, like Jalen Carter, 3 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Jordan Davis, always providing pressure with a sack and a tackle for loss. Milton Williams, even. This Philly defensive line really showed out. And so did the Saints. Carl Granderson, 4 solo tackles, sack and a half. Paulson, Adebo, 10 solo tackles there. So, I mean, just, the defenses were making plays left and right. It even shows that Chris Olave even came in for a defensive play, interestingly enough. And apparently Chris Olave made a tackle, it seems.
Probably on an interception return.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably fair enough to say, right? So, Chris Olave, though, I was really impressed by the one touchdown that the Saints did get. We saw, in that week 1, where the Saints went off 47-10 against the Panthers. Chris Olave didn't really get involved. But I really want to go ahead and get your take on Chris Olave in this game, given what he was able to do to provide the Saints a chance to win this one even late in the clutch in a competitive football game.
Yeah, I mean, he scored the only touchdown of the day for the Saints. And I mean, you just knew when it was a competitive game that Chris Olave would show up. I mean, I've been mentioning that throughout the year. So very impressive to see Olave in the clutch do what he has to do. Obviously it wasn't enough to hold up, but that was a positive sign from the Saints offense. But with the 6 catches, 86 yards, touchdown for Olave, long of 29, caught all 6 of his targets. So he had a respectable enough performance, but you just didn't see enough out of the Saints offense. You'd like to see more from Derek Carr, 14 of 25, 142 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, only sacked once. So, I mean, he wasn't under pressure very much. He only was sacked the one time. But you'd want to see a stronger performance from Derek Carr, wouldn't you think?
You would want to see a stronger performance from Derek Carr. You would have wanted to see this strong performance from Jalen Hurts too. This wasn't a game that really came down to the quarterbacks. This was a game that came down to who was going to make the bigger play at the end, who was going to, outscore who at the end, who was going to get that one explosive play over the other at the end. And that team was Philly. And that team was Philly when Saquon Barkley exploded for that big, massive touchdown.
Mm-hmm. The big touchdown by Saquon Barkley, the big interception at the end of the game by Reed Blankenship that really sealed the deal when the Saints had one last chance to try to get back in the game. And that just shut down the effort for the Saints. Did you have any last thoughts on the game?
I did not have any last thoughts or final takes on this Eagles and Saints game, but it was a fun one to watch.
So yeah, you have the Eagles. They come away with the 15-12 win next week. They'll be at Tampa Bay. The Saints next week they fall to 2-1, and they'll be they'll be at Atlanta, a big divisional game there. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and continue to follow our NFL content throughout the season.